Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Joe, and welcome back to another episode of the Inside Our Phillies podcast. As promised, we have our playoff preview today. I'm here with a good friend of mine, but unfortunately a Mets fan. Alec, how's it going, Alec?
Yeah. Oh, baseball is not that great right now.
Yeah,
Um,
we're minimizing the bias. We're getting multiple team perspectives in here today.
yeah, I really thought we would be talking about my team here. I'm really not gonna lie. Uh, I mean, we're not gonna be talking about him that much, unfortunately or fortunately for you guys. I know you guys probably all really want a salty Mets fan.
Talk about it.
Honestly, what?
Talk about it.
I was actually gonna say I feel like that'd be better if we did like an off-season podcast. I gotta be real, because my feeling after that game yesterday was, first off, fucking of course they're the Mets. Um, what else is gonna happen? But also, it's like it wasn't that surprising. I mean, the team had been complete garbage since June, so like, what else did you expect? And so, like, my opinion after that last game was, I don't want to give them any more of my energy. And it's also kind of really funny, by the way. Like how in the Steve Cohen era, the Mets have been like good and bad, like every other team. Like I was actually thinking about this morning, right? So like 2021 was whatever. 2022, I said at the time, March through September was like the most, March through August, sorry, was like the most fun regular season I've ever had, because that was a great season until, what happened at the end. Then 2023 was terrible. And then 2024 replaced 2022 as the best regular season I've ever had. And then 2025 became the worst season I've ever had. So, yeah, there's a lot to talk there, but we're here to talk about the playoffs, so
We got to
let's
get
do
some Mets
that.
discussion in first because I don't know where the Mets go from here. One thing that would have upset me, because I think you're right that like the fall from the Mets was kind of visible from 100 miles away. Like it wasn't a surprise to either of
No,
us.
it
I
was
know
not a
that.
surprise. It's not a
Um,
surprise at all. Actually,
three.
like, not to spoil, this is actually going to spoil some of the talking points I had for the playoffs discussion
Save
we're
it
going to
and
do.
save it.
Um, okay.
Save it. But
Yeah, because I was planning on talking about some of the Mets stuff when we're talking about the team that replaced the Mets, because obviously I have opinions on most of the playoff teams that we have here. But yeah.
the three things that I'm interested in with the Mets is like number one, will Edwin Diaz opt out? I think that's a big question. I think he probably will, but I think there's a question there, and if Stearns is going to be able to pay the money or if he will want to pay the money to
I
keep him
mean,
on board.
that's up to Cohen. That's up to paying the money part.
Well, then you
By
get
the way,
into
this
a
is just
whole
rant for another day. I can I curse, by the way? I hope I can curse, because I tend to curse a lot in casual conversation. I'm sorry.
sure, sure.
Um, I hate the narrative that Stearns wasn't the one who wanted Alonso back or Soto, and that was all Cohen. Like, you think Stearns didn't sign up for that shit? Like, get the fuck out of here. That's such a stupid narrative. Will they want to spend the money? I don't know. Ask Steve Cohen, who has like one of the highest payrolls in baseball. I would think so, especially with how much Mets fans have loved him really after his first year in 2021. But, we'll see. I feel like it's a lot more about years than it is with than money. I mean, especially with Pete, you look at what happened last year, right? He got paid like 30 million this year, right? I believe he's like one of the highest, or if not the highest paid third baseman in baseball. But I just don't think they wanted to commit to like 5 years to him. And so, like, I kind of think that we'll be in that position again with Pete. I mean, uh, very same position. I think they're going to be testing out the market. And I think that's the same thing with Diaz. Like, okay, he was the highest paid reliever in baseball in this contract. And so I don't know that they'll have a problem paying him that money again. I think it's just about how locked down in years do they want to be with him. Anyway.
No, I think that's right. I think it's interesting that Pete Alonso was talking about his Mets tenure in the past tense in his post game kind of locker room talk yesterday. Also interesting how he announced he was opting out right in the moment. I feel like
Yeah, you know
I
what?
guess
Actually,
in some ways
that
you would
reminded
expect
me.
him.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it reminded me of something a little ironic, which was Juan Soto saying the exact same thing right after Game 5 of the World Series. But yeah.
Yeah, everyone thinks of Garrett Cole in the Boris hat. But yeah, I'd be upset at Alonso saying that right away. I think it's hilarious that Steve Cohen had to apologize on Twitter. Like genuinely hilarious. And I also didn't realize how hated the Mets were now. Looking around the online baseball circles in the last,
Yeah,
36 hours.
it's been really bad. I actually left a comment. So first off, I guess I should say I am on Reddit. I'm obviously not in the Philly subreddit, but my username is Alec the Awesome. I think it's Alec the Awesome 23 on Reddit. You've probably seen some of my comments on the baseball subreddit if you're active enough there. And I actually something I commented today, which is felt true, which is like, listen, the Mets deserve to be laughed at, but I thought, everyone hated Houston so much, and then it's like when they got eliminated, there wasn't like half the stuff there was as there was on the Mets. Like I don't know, it's kind of wild. I mean, we've been a loser franchise for so long. I guess I don't know. We got a taste of not being a loser franchise, and now everyone hates us. I don't know. It's a weird vibe, but I don't know.
Well, your payroll's like double the Astros at this point. A lot of the Astros that were part of the 17 team are gone now. So like, in that extent, I get it. And I am also, kind of basking in the misery of the Mets right now. But
Yeah,
let's get into the playoffs.
Okay.
We have an exciting playoff field, unexpected playoff field. Pretty good September here across baseball.
Bad
so
for me.
I think a lot of good matches, a lot of intrigue and who's going to get the buys, especially in the AL. The whole collapse that we had at the very end of the season by the Tigers.
Yeah, not just by my team, Detroit. I'll also talk about Detroit when I get to Detroit. But what the fuck happened in Detroit?
Yeah, and the whole NL 6 speed kind of race to the bottom. But let's start out with the AL and the AL 1 p.m. AL wildcard invitational. It's always the Guardians having that 1 p.m. game in the wild card round. This year, it's against Detroit. So what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I think it's really hard for me to not pick Cleveland to win, and so I am picking Cleveland to win. I mean, there's just so much that goes into it. Literally, just what we talked about Detroit, just like absolutely shitting the bed down the stretch, and especially a lot of that came in. Thinking about what the final series. I don't know if the final series that you played, but where Cleveland actually like got into first place in the division, and that was actually against Detroit in that series, and so it's hard for me to not look at the second half of the season trajectories with this team where Cleveland's just going up, 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 and Detroit's just going down, 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 down. And it feels really difficult for me to pick against those trends. So I really do think Cleveland is going to be winning this wildcard series.
Yeah, we're gonna differ right off the bat here because I'm having Detroit in this series, and it's for two reasons. Okay. Number one, I get what you're saying about how the Guardians have been rising and the Tigers have been falling, but when you go and look at the data, like there's really not that much to support that those kind of hot streaks matter going into the postseason. Very little correlation between how a team's doing in the last month to how they do in the postseason. And then number two, the best player on the field in this series is going to be Trick Skubal. And if he can just pick up a win in game one, which I would say is likely, I think a Skubal game is a likely win against pretty much anybody in the entire league. Then all you have to do as Detroit is just win 1 of 2 games, right? You just have to split on the road. And I think they do it in 3 games. I have Detroit winning in Cleveland.
Interesting. Yeah, actually, I was just thinking about it. I don't think you're right. Skubal's going to game 1. I'm still going to say like Cleveland because of everything I just said, but we haven't had a team win game 1 and lose the wildcard series because actually there's only been 2 wildcards since it's been a wildcard series. 2 wildcard series to go 3 games, and both involve the Mets for some reason. So I'm just gonna pick, just from the memes of it, I'm gonna pick every one of these wildcard games just to go 2, just because I think that's kind of funny.
It wouldn't surprise me, right? Like 3 games when you look at like the whole 162 game season, it's such a small sample, right? And like I think that in a lot of ways, I love the playoffs. I don't really allow myself to get that emotional in the regular season, but I do.
you and I know we're both complete opposites in that sense. I mean, you've gotten so many texts from me about like the Mets season being just completely over and washed.
I have. Yes, I have. But in the playoffs, it's a completely different story, right? Like, really, 3 games, 5 games, even 7 games doesn't really tell you anything about who's the better team. It's just kind of all about
Yeah,
what's
true.
happening in that month of October, that magical month. So now the next series, and no surprise, this is given the prime time slot. What a matchup in the wild card round. We have the Red Sox against the Yankees.
So I should just clarify, I have a very weird relationship with the Yankees. I am a Mets fan. I grew up in New York. I grew up surrounded by Yankee fans. I absolutely cannot stand the New York Yankees. However, I really love Aaron Judge. He's an absolutely amazing player, once in a lifetime player. It feels like, aside from Otani, and I love everything about him except for the jersey he wears. But the thing with this Yankee team in this era is they win a couple rounds and then fall short. And so, as much as I would love, and I mean I would love, if I were writing this series, I would want Aaron Judge to go off and for the Yankees to get absolutely destroyed in this series. Keeping up the trend of them not beating a team not from the AL Central, but I'm actually leaning towards the Yankees winning a series, especially at home, and moving on.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I have the Yankees winning as well. I have it in 2 games, though I wouldn't be surprised if it did end up going 3 games.
Yeah, I would
I
not
know
either.
I know the Yankees rotation kind of gets a lot of talk about not being that great, and the back half of it isn't great. But their 1-2 punch of Fried and Rodon still really really good, and an underappreciated guy. Fantasy baseball players will know him. Cam Schlittler, who like quietly came up in like this last month and a half of the season and pitched to an ERA below 3. Watching a lot of his starts as a fantasy baseball owner, I fully trust Cam Schlittler to come through in the big games in the postseason. And you have to defer to the best player on the field being Aaron Judge. The games being at was sure to be like a wild environment of Yankee Stadium. So I'm with you that I think the Yankees are going to advance here.
Yeah, I mean, really, the biggest question mark with the Yankees is Aaron Judge, because he's been in the regular season. Everything I talked about him being Barry Bonds 2.0, once in a generation player, has only been in the regular season. And he finally showed up last year in World Series Game 5, and he looked like Aaron Judge, except all that game's going to be remembered for is him dropping the pop up. So I think that is the biggest question mark with the Yankees again. I mean, will Stan be October Stan? Probably, but if they can get Judge to even look like 75% of MVP Judge, which, if you ask me, he should win the MVP discussion for another time. But I think the Yankees, they will be a real threat, and I feel like if they don't win the series or they don't go far, it will be because of him not doing well and possibly a Rodon meltdown start because of pressure.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. The MVP discussion, I actually would be going with Raleigh. I understand that Judge has more WAR, and I generally kind of defer to that kind of stuff. Most stats, Aaron Judge is better than Cal Raleigh. But catching defense is something that is still really hard to quantify and value in things like WAR. And at least in my opinion, I think Raleigh's defense goes a little bit underrated. And just the fact they have a catcher that hits 60 home runs, I mean, I highly doubt that we're going to be seeing that again anytime soon.
It is ridiculous. I mean, it's one of those things where if he was in the, I mean, first off, I mean, if Raleigh wins, it's not like I'll be like, screaming and upset, but it's one of those things where it's like if Raleigh just played at like a different time, right? If he played at a different time where Aaron Judge was not what he's been, like, he would just win in a landslide. It wouldn't be close. It's just happened to be in a bad time. It's like exactly what happened to Bobby Witt last year, or even Lindor last year too. So yeah, I mean, whatever happens there happens. It's just my opinion. I think Aaron Judge is overall the better player. Like, Raleigh has catching, he has home runs, and Aaron Judge has, well, everything else.
Yeah, so let's go to the National League Wild Card Series now. I think these are some also pretty interesting matchups. We'll start off with Cincinnati, the team that won that race to the bottom, took the 6th seed. They're going to Los Angeles to play the Dodgers. What are your thoughts about this series, Alec?
What do I have my thoughts about this series? I don't trust Cincinnati to do shit. I know Hunter Green is really good, and I know Ellie is good, but here's the reason why. This is going to be the one. This is going to be why I plan to be the biggest time where I talk about the Mets, which is that the Mets, they've been terrible since June, absolutely god awful, and they were eliminated on the final game. They weren't out of a playoff spot until like 5 days before the end of the season. And you know, it's funny thinking about it last year, the playoff picture. Last year, the 89 win Arizona Diamondbacks missed the playoffs. This year, if there was just even a like halfway decent team behind the Mets, really what should have ended the Mets season was the 8-game losing streak in September. Even if that didn't officially end their season, so there's actually like a good team behind the Mets. That should have just put them out. Too far to recover from. But it didn't, because the Reds are a couple games above 500. What? The Giants finished exactly 500. The Diamondbacks, like, around the same. Like, there was just such a pit of mediocrity behind the Mets. That's what allowed them to stay into it the entire season. So, do I trust the Reds to be good or to do anything? No, I do not. And as I'm not saying that because I'm salty, I blame the Mets for missing the playoffs, not the Reds. And that's the point. The Reds, they didn't really take advantage of the Mets stumbling. It was just the Mets just kept tanking, right? No one was there to really rise up and take it from them. And on the other side of the field is the Dodgers, who I look at as a pretty good team with one flaw. Their one flaw is, man, that bullpen is absolutely god awful. Absolutely terrible. Complete dog shit. I think that'll be more manageable, especially in a 3-game series, because of something actually the Mets try to do at the end of the series, at the end of the season, which is piggybacking, tag team, however you want to call it. I remember going into the start of the season, looking at the Dodgers starting rotation and seeing they have like basically 2 starting rotations for it. And so I think if I were Dave Roberts, I'm not fully 100% sure of who's healthy, who's not. Like, is Glasnow healthy? I know Sasuke. I'm sorry, Roki Sasaki. Saying that name wants me to say Sasuke from Naruto. I'm sorry.
You're good
for not pronouncing that right. But I like that's the thing I would do with starters is if you can piggyback them and you can really decrease the amount of important innings that bullpen is going to get. I think they're a good team and everything else. So this feels like the Dodgers series to lose. Like, I think they will win this series.
I am with you. I'll say first off, I agree that the Dodgers are going to win this series. I have them winning this in 3 games. But with that being said, the Reds have a lot of the trademarks of a team that goes on an unexpected run in October. Is their offense good? No, not at all. Ellie De La Cruz is pretty overrated. Austin Hayes is hitting cleanup. Bad lineup. Very bad lineup. But the starting pitchers that the Reds are going to be walking into this series can go toe-to-toe with just about anybody. You give me Hunter Green pitching, he can win a game against any pitcher in the league. Then you got Andrew Abbott, who's a very underrated pitcher. And I think that he could also steal a game. Nick Lodolo, he's one of the better lefties in the game. Phillies fans know just how much Nick Lodolo destroys the Phillies. And I think that the Reds have all of the trademarks of making this a very, very interesting series. And I also hear what you're saying about the Dodgers bullpen kind of potentially causing them problems. But I think that some of that is going to be mitigated. Kershaw is now part of the bullpen. He's not going to be starting. Roki Sasaki, he's part of the bullpen. He's not going to be starting. So everybody in the bullpen, maybe you're still going to have Tanner Scott or somebody else come up in like super high leverage roles. I still think Tanner Scott's.
I don't understand why they kept putting him in high leverage roles when he was just like terrible. Like, I don't know why they kept using him as a closer, but I'm not a Dodger fan, so.
From a mental perspective, I get it, but watching the stuff and everything, I'm still a believer in Tanner Scott. But a lot of these like middle relievers for the Dodgers are kind of going to get sent down the pecking order a little bit. And I think that they're starting pitching at the end of the day, while the Reds have really good starting pitching, almost as good. I think it's just tough to beat Snell and Yamamoto in a playoff series, 3 games. Dodgers are at home. It's tough. I will say, for the Phillies, I think it would be a big win if this can get to 3 games and you force Ohtani to pitch in Game 3, which he would do, according to Dave Roberts, if there was a Game 3. That way, you would probably be getting Class now from what we've heard in Game 1 of the NLDS, which would make a big difference. But I do have it going 3 games, and I have the Dodgers winning.
There you go.
But yeah, the Reds, I think, are going to make this tough, and I think the Reds would also be a tough NLDS matchup. I'm not sure there's that big of a difference between the Dodgers and the Reds in the playoffs for the Phillies. At least that's my opinion about it. But the final wildcard matchup we have, the Padres from San Diego going against the Chicago Cubs. What are your thoughts on this one, Alec?
This is one of the ones where I mostly just relied on gut, and I know it's kind of crazy, but so to me, this is the series of second half underperformers. The Cubs were not the same as they were in the first half. PCA dropped off dropped off a cliff in the second half, and I believe Tucker wasn't as good, and then he got hurt, but I think he's back now. And then the Padres, when the Padres made all those trades to get all those acquisitions, it sort of felt like they were going to be like second half beaters, or I mean, not really second half, their trade deadline, but they were going to just run rampage on the rest of the National League for the rest of the season, and it just never really felt like they did that. I mean, it's not like the Dodgers just ran away with the division. Like the Padres could have been that team who ran and took away the NL West from the Dodgers, and they just weren't. But I think overall, the Padres are a better team, and I think they will win. And something else I thought about actually with this series, because this was one I felt like it could go either way. It feels like the road team wins a lot in these wild card series. I don't know why, but so I'm just leading with my gut, and I feel like the Padres are overall a better team, and I think they will beat the Cubs.
Yeah, I think both these teams are in an interesting spot. I think the injury to Cade Horton on the Cubs is a big deal. It kind of puts their rotation into much bigger of a question mark. I do think it's hilarious that the Padres announced that Nick Pivetta is starting Game 1. He is genuinely a really good pitcher now, but I am surprised to see him there nonetheless. The thing with the Cubs is they started off so hot. That first month that the Cubs had was so good. And then we kind of learned over, the remaining 4 or 5 months of the season that maybe that isn't who they really were. And I think that might have inflated their season stats and their win totals quite a bit. And then you look at the Padres, who I don't think they're a great team, right? They have Yu Darvish scheduled to pitch this in this series when he's got an ERA above 5. Like, that's not what you want to see going into the postseason. Yu Darvish is kind of a shell of his former self. But I think that the consistency of the Padres is going to make all the difference in this series. And I have them winning in 3 games over the Cubs in Wrigley.
Right.
So we aren't that different. So coming out of the wild card round,
so far,
it's truly not that different, which is interesting to see.
That also means someone's bracket is going to immediately be broken. Card, though.
That is a good point. I probably should submit my official bracket to the MLB.com bracket challenge or whatever they call it. I love March Madness brackets so much, but I mean those are a lot more fun than MLB brackets just because of how many more games there are. But let's get ahead to the divisional series now. We are going.
Before we go into the American League, there's one team I really want to start with in the division series, and it's because this team to me was the toughest team to rank how they were going to perform, because genuinely I have no clue, and that team is the Milwaukee Brewers. Here's the thing with the Milwaukee Brewers. You look at every season they've had since 2018, they've had good seasons. It's not like they've been bad. They've had pretty good years, and they've gone into the playoffs every year but 2022. The problem is, as soon as they've gone into the playoffs, they've just fallen flat on their face. And so the thing with this Brewers team this year is, are they going to repeat that? Yes, this Brewers team has been better than those Brewers teams in the past, but those Brewers teams weren't bad teams. And so they have this recent history of just shrinking under the spotlight. So that's why, to me, they're so insanely tough to rank, because I'll raise my hand and I'll say, if the Brewers show up like the regular season Brewers, I think they're winning the World Series. Sign it up, lock it in. But I just have trouble having faith in that happening. So I honestly chose to go Heartbreak City for the Brewers once again. I'm gonna say the trend is gonna continue, and I'm gonna say the Padres are going to knock out the Milwaukee Brewers in the first round.
Interesting. Okay, so you got the Padres advancing to the NLCS. For this series, I get your reasoning for sure. And in this series, San Diego, Milwaukee, I would be rooting for San Diego for the sole purpose of that I'd rather go to a championship series road trip in San Diego than Milwaukee. I'd love another excuse to go to Southern California. But with that being said, I think the Brewers are for real. I know that they've had their problems in postseasons past, but I think this is a better team. This is the team that had the best record in the major leagues this year. They have the number one overall seed across all of the postseason. And I think that at the end of the day, I just think they have a better pitching staff. I think they have a better bullpen. I think the lineups are pretty close, and I think you could argue that Jackson Chourio is probably the best position player on either team. I'm a big Jackson Chourio fan.
Oh, he's scary. Yeah, no, he's definitely scary. Actually, just rewind to last year in our series with them. After the big home run and everything in the top of the ninth, it was runner on first, one out, and Chourio on deck. And I said I didn't want Chourio up. Chourio was the last person I wanted up. He's a gamer. I'm sure he'll do well. And luckily they hit into a double play. So yeah, I mean, the Brewers are a good team. Like on paper, the Brewers should win this series. They absolutely should. It just comes down to the same thing that's happened to them in this recent history. Will this Brewers team be the Brewers team that shows up, or are we going to get a watered down version that filled with heartbreak? Like what has happened.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about this. I'm generally of the opinion that so many of like the this team's bad in the postseason, this player's bad in the postseason. I think so much of it can be explained by small sample sizes. Like we're taking what somebody did over the course of a dozen games and treating it as if it's more important than like the body of work over a full season. And I just empirically can't fully get behind that. I think that there's people who can be a little bit better than their averages in the postseason, or a little bit worse. I think that clutch is a real thing to some extent, but I also do generally find it to be overstated. So I think that we're going to see some, regression to the mean in a positive way for the Brewers and see them make it to the NLCS. So now
Well,
I'm sure a lot of
I honestly am kind of rooting for them in the National League. Honestly, their team has never won the World Series. I wouldn't be upset if they did. It's just, I mean, as much as you talk about all that stuff, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, some teams got it, some teams don't. I mean, the team that was always the best on paper doesn't always win. I mean, obviously it happened last year, but it feels like in the past like 5 or so years, like if you look at the National League and look at the best teams on paper, we would have had like a Dodgers Braves NLCS like every single year, and that's just that didn't always happen.
That's never the way it works in the baseball postseason, Alec. We both know that.
Right,
but
exactly.
Let's go to the other National League series here. I'm sure Phillies fans have been waiting for us to get to this one. 28 minutes into the podcast. We both have the Dodgers against the Phillies. I'll pass it off to you first. What do you think about that matchup?
I think the Phillies will win. I think the Phillies are the better all-around team. And see, just because I'm a Mets fan, I'm not showing the Phillies. I'll give you my honest opinion here. I really do. I think the bullpen will be the Dodgers' bane in this game. You can book this, save this clip, and maybe this is completely wrong, but I think that, as much as I said everything about piggybacking starters, I think it's a lot harder to do when there is a 5-game series. And I think there will be one game in this series, at least, if not two, where the Dodgers will have a multiple run lead in like the 7th or 8th inning, go to the bullpen, and the bullpen just completely implodes and Philly wins this game. To me, it really doesn't matter the bullpen just being terrible. And because of that, I think the Phillies are a more complete team. And so I do have the Phillies taking the series.
I do too, for two main reasons. I think, number one, like you said, the Phillies are more complete in the sense that they have a better back end of their lineup. I think the Dodgers, once you kind of get below 4, 5 in their batting order, it just falls off of a cliff, and you kind of feel like you could kind of sleep through the back half of that batting order. And with the Phillies, well, the back half has its problems. Guys like Harrison Bader are probably going to be hitting 6th in the postseason. JT Realmuto is probably going to be hitting like 7th. We're going to have Bryson Stott hitting 9th in the postseason. And I think these guys are all better than that. And I don't think you can sleepwalk through the bottom half of the Phillies lineup in the same way that you can the Dodgers. And the other thing is that the Phillies are kind of tailor-made to beat the Dodgers in that their best pitching options, outside of Joe and Duran, are pretty much all lefties. They're going to just hammer left-handed starters at that. The Dodgers, of course, the only right-handed starter that we're going to see is Aaron Nola in like Game 4. I think that the rest advantage is going to be a big deal for the Phillies.
Is he gonna pitch?
And then,
Sorry, but I know he's been very I remember last year we talked about him being like so reliable. Obviously, I'm talking about in private. We're close friends. We talk about baseball a lot in private, mostly just baseball actually. But I remember last year we were talking about him being like super reliable, like someone who takes the ball like every 5 games and 6 innings, 3 runs kind of thing. And like this year he's been bad and hurt from my understanding. Like I guess maybe they're out of options with Wheeler out, which really stinks for this team because I do think they're pretty good and can go on a run. But I guess you really think like he'll give him the start as the 4th starter.
The perception that Phillies fans have is that Aaron Nola is going to be the 4 starter, probably with a pretty short leash. But what people are expecting is Christopher Sanchez Game 1, Ranger Suarez Game 2, Jesus Luzardo Game 3, Aaron Nola Game 4, and then back up to the top for Game 5, 6, 7.
Fair enough.
But back to what I was saying. Phillies' only right-handed option they really have that you really trust, with Kerkering kind of being down in the dumps right now, is Joe Duran. But I don't think that matters a lot with the Dodgers because some of the guys you're really scared about, Shohei Ohtani, just throw Matt Strahm at him and Matt Strahm will do his job. You got Freddie Freeman, show him like anybody, and Freddie Freeman, I'm not as worried about him as I was 5 years ago, but throw him another lefty, right? And Tanner Banks will get the job done. Mookie Betts doesn't scare me as much as he has in prior years. He was sick early in the year, lost a lot of weight, had a good last month, but still not really back to being Mookie Betts. And I do give the Phillies the advantage in what I think is going to be a 4-game series against the Dodgers. Phillies win it 3-1.
There you go.
How many games? I don't think you said how many games you expect that to be. What do you think?
How many games? I was thinking 5. I'm going to say 5.
5?
Okay.
Okay.
I do think the Dodgers are a good team that are not going to bow easily, but I think their weaknesses are going to be exposed enough that Phillies are going to win.
As somebody that has a ticket to Game 5, that's fine with me. I'd rather it end sooner. I don't want it to have to go to that game. I'd like to get a refund instead.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe have you told? By the way, weird cross tangent. Have you told your audience how many games you went to in 2023 NLCS? I feel really bad.
that has came up multiple times on this show, and I am prepared for the same thing to happen. I told myself for so long, Joe, you're not going to travel for the NLDS. It's not worth it to travel for the NLDS. And maybe I won't if it's Cincinnati, but if it is the Dodgers, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go to LA next week.
You love LA anyway, so any excuse to get back there.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I view it, if we're being real here. But I'm sure I'm setting myself up for heartbreak at one point by watching something, akin to the Kimbrel meltdown, which I was one of like the few Phillies fans to watch in person. But let's head to the American side of the bracket now. This is the series that we have different teams going in. You had Cleveland winning the wild card, and they're going to be going to Seattle to play the Mariners. What do you think?
I think Seattle's going to win.
Okay.
I think, as much as I talk about Cleveland's second half trajectory, I think losing Class A is going to be a really big deal. And isn't David Fry hurt? I saw he was hurt. I don't know if he's back. Cleveland, I really like Cleveland. I was there at late July. It was really great. I think Seattle was the better team. And I think the better team's going to win. And that's going to be the Seattle Mariners.
So there's a lot of talk about the Mariners pitching, right? Like the starting pitching is really
Yes.
good for the
I mean,
Mariners.
from my understanding, the AL West is like the division I pay the least attention to because my baseball knowledge is it's Mets focused, and the AL West is literally like the exact opposite of that. But from my understanding, Seattle has been a little bit different than like last year, where their pitching was really good and their offense wasn't as good. This year, it feels like it's been kind of like more reverse, right? Like they have like Josh Naylor, who's been right, I believe. No, or
Yep.
was it Suarez who got traded there? I don't remember.
Well, they both were. Naylor
Oh,
and Suarez.
there you go.
Yeah,
They both
of them.
were. The Diamondbacks rejects to Seattle, and like they've been, helping out a lot. And then you have Rowley having this crazy MVP worthy season, whether it happens or not. I don't know how Julio has been this year. I don't remember. But yeah, like so it feels like their offense has been better, and then but their pitching I think hasn't been as good.
The pitching has not been as good. A lot of people view the Mariners as having like a top 5 starting staff, but at least when you go based on ERA, they're 13th in the major leagues this year. Detroit, they're 11th. Obviously, a lot of that comes from Skubal, who is, in my opinion, a better pitcher than Paul Skeens. Maybe that's a hot take. But
that is a hot take.
Talking about hot takes, I think the Tigers are beating the Mariners.
Wow!
I think
I'm sorry, Seattle. If this happens, I'm sorry, Mariners fans. I feel really bad for you guys.
I think that Skubal goes game 1. He'll be able to go again. Full rest game 4 or 5. Not entirely sure how the schedule works out. They'd pitch him again short rest for game 7 if they have to. And I do realize that the offense for the Mariners is better. But Suarez has struggled since he got traded to Seattle. I think in 2 big ballparks, Detroit and Seattle, both some of the bigger ballparks in the major leagues. Pitching is going to have the upper hand, especially with the colder weather.
Sure.
And I am going to go with the pitching advantage that getting like 3 Skubal starts gives you over the Mariners, as Seattle fans are devastated.
Yeah, man. Seattle. I would feel so bad for Mariners fans. I really. Oh man, what a tortured fan base that is. But yeah, I mean, you think about it that way. But yeah, that's true. I mean, if you pitch him on short rest and you throw Skubal 3 times, that means you have to beat him in 1 game. Because if you don't, then you lose because it's a 5-game series. But I'm still, I still have to go with the picks I put down. So I'm just gonna stick with Seattle winning the series.
Yeah, I mean, you probably get Skubal.
They're not facing Detroit in my bracket anyway. I completely forgot.
They're not. Yes. If it's Cleveland, I'm with you. If it's Cleveland, I would have the Mariners beating the Guardians. And to be fair, Skubal would probably go out of the bullpen in a hypothetical game 5, whatever. He's not going to start, games 4 and game 5. But nonetheless, I do have Detroit beating the Mariners in 5 games. So now the final divisional series matchup, one that we agree on here, is we have the New York Yankees taking the road, going to the Rogers Center, up above the northern border in Canada, going against the Toronto Blue Jays. What do you think about this one, Alec?
If you're going based off of Yankees juju, then you would probably say the Yankees would lose this series. Well, actually, they probably would have lost to the Red Sox then. But because they typically do a lot better in playoff series where they're home versus where they're away. That being said, kind of similar to the Brewers, I do not trust the Toronto Blue Jays. I do not trust them. It feels like a similar sort of situation where I think it was 22 and 23 they made the playoffs, and they fell flat. Tripped over themselves in the wild card, and they didn't make the playoffs last year. I believe I have that right. And so, I don't know. Like, it feels like pattern recognition. Like, is Toronto going to do it again, right? Versus are the Yankees going to get to another ALCS because they get to the ALCS like basically every year? And so, yeah, I am leaning towards the Yankees taking this series. I mean, I guess that's a bit contradictory to what actually happened in the season series between these two, but my gut just tells me Toronto is not going to be the same team in the playoffs, and I think the Yankees will squeak on by.
Interesting. Once again, we are disagreeing here. I have the Blue Jays making it to the championship series. I think that their lineup has so much more depth. I think that the Yankees, maybe you could give them a slight pitching advantage. And while I do typically favor the pitching, at least the Yankees definitely can give them a starting pitching advantage. I think the lineup for the Blue Jays is better and deeper enough that I am going to be going with the Blue Jays here. Make it 5 games. I think that this is going to be, yet another competitive division series. But I am going to be going with the Blue Jays making it on to the ALCS this year.
All right.
So all of a sudden, we have quite a few differences here.
Yes, we have quite divergence here.
So just kind of going through our brackets. You have the 5 seed in the National League, the Padres, going to Philadelphia for the NLCS, the 2 seed, the Phillies, and then you have the 4 seed, the Yankees, going against the 2 seed Seattle Mariners in the ALCS, and I have the 2 seed Phillies not having home field advantage and playing 4 games in Milwaukee in the championship series, and then the 6 seed Tigers making a little bit of a Cinderella run as they meet up with the Blue Jays in the ALCS. Let's kind of keep it with the AL for now, and I'll again pass this off to you first. You got Yankees, you got Mariners. What do you think?
2001 ALCS rematch, and I'm actually leaning towards the outcome being the complete opposite of what happened in 2001. I am leaning towards the Seattle Mariners going to their first ever World Series. Again, I mean, I don't know. It's really tough with these later matchups, is what I found when thinking about this all in my head. The wild cards felt much easier for me to pick, and even the division series. It's like now you get to this point, especially because so much of it is who's hot, who's not. I don't know. Call me crazy. I maybe I shouldn't trust Seattle because of their broken history, but I think the Yankees lineup just isn't that deep. Maybe it's a little bit deeper than like last year and the year before, but I don't really trust the Yankees lineup. The Yankees rotation, it's we'll see. To me, Rodon is the big flex point there, because he's shown his time in New York that it doesn't always handle pressure starts very well, and so we'll see about that this year. Schlittler, we'll see about him in the postseason. I know he's been really good so far. It's kind of funny that both New York teams had a rookie pitcher debut and just hit the ground running. The same year, but their bullpen, I don't really love the Yankees bullpen either. So I am giving it to the Seattle Mariners. I'm saying they're going to the World Series.
I'd be happy if that happened. The Mariners have long been my AL team. The Phillies aren't going to win it this year. The Mariners are who I want to win it most. But for my ALCS, Mariners aren't there. It's the Tigers against the Blue Jays. And I got the Blue Jays. I think you can make a lot of the same arguments that I made for the ALDS about Drew Skubal kind of just getting you over the edge. But at this point, he's not going to, have as much energy. He'll have pitched, and probably start Game 4 and come out of the bullpen in Game 5 of the ALDS. So you're not going to have him for Game 1 of the ALCS. I think that the lineup in Toronto is so much better. It's more patient than the lineup that the Tigers would be facing in Seattle. And at the end of the day, I have Toronto winning this in make it 6 games. 6 games, you're going to have Toronto win the American League. Bo Bichette is your ALCS MVP. I think he'll go off in this ALCS. And we'll see the Blue Jays in the World Series.
All right, there you go.
So now to the National League side. You have San Diego at Philadelphia, kind of the inverse of the 2022 NLCS, where the Phillies did not have home field advantage, but they played the Padres in the That's What's In series.
So this series, I went back and forth on this one, on who I thought was going to win. At first, I said Phillies are gonna like first, gut reaction when I was going on this bracket. I was like, oh yeah, Phillies are gonna win this. They're gonna take this. They're a lot better than the Padres. They're gonna, they beat them up in 2022. Obviously, not all the same pieces, but like this feels like, oh yeah, Phillies are gonna get a free ride to the World Series. But then I thought about it. I thought about it more. I thought about all this stuff in my brain while I was at work, and I don't know. The Padres bullpen has been great this year. First off, let me put it this way. I think the Phillies have the starting pitching edge, and I think that's pretty clear. I think once you get past that, it gets to be a little more questionable. I mean, because of the Padres, the Padres and the Phillies both have great star players in the lineup, but, the Padres, with all the crazy deadline acquisitions they made for all the crazy players, Laureano, O'Hearn, those are the two that stand out to me. I know there's more.
Laureano's hurt right now too. Laureano broke his finger, and I think he'll be. I think if it's the CS, I think he will be back for that. But I think broke a finger or something like that.
There you go. And so the way I was looking at it with their lineup is that more or less, like, let's say Tatis and Machado cancel out with Harper and Schwarber, and then you look at the bottom of the lineup, and because of all the trades, it feels like the Padres bottom of the lineup is better than the Phillies bottom of the lineup, and because the Padres bullpen has been so elite this year, feels like their bullpen's probably going to be better than the Phillies bullpen. And so suddenly I thought a series that was just going to be like a wash. Like, wow, this series is going to be easy for the Phillies. I'm staring at it and I'm being like, I don't know, like, I'm not really sure. And so this one, I think, could go either way. I think it's going to be a really close, tight series just because of everything I said. I think these teams are matched up pretty well. My gut right now, I'm not saying this is a troll, Padres are going to the World Series.
That bullpen is really good in San Diego. And, in a postseason where you usually see starters get quick hooks, that could be the difference. So, I think that's fair. If I had the Padres against the Phillies, I would probably take the Phillies, but that is not the matchup that I have. It's
really close. I do really think it's really close.
I have the Phillies against the Brewers in the NLCS, and I also do not have the Phillies moving on to the World Series. Oh. I think that the Brewers will advance to the World Series.
It made me curious. When was the last time the Brewers were in the World Series?
They never have been in the World Series. No, I don't think they ever were.
No, they've been to the World Series. Seattle's the only team that hasn't been into the World Series.
No, you're right. The Brewers never won a World Series.
Google AI, I don't really trust Google AI. It says 1982, but that's just the first thing.
That was like the Bud Selig ownership group. Yeah, no, that was I read about that in Bud Selig's book, For the Good of the Game. It's a good book.
You recommend that to me.
Yeah, But yeah, I think that the Brewers in a lot of ways are the Phillies' kryptonite. The Brewers are a very smart team. They're a deep team. They don't rely too much on any one guy. And I think that's kind of scary in the postseason where, next man up, just kind of play for the guys behind you. I think that's going to matter a lot. And I think that the Brewers have the pitching weapons to kind of neutralize the lefties that the Phillies are bringing up at the top of the lineup, Schwarber and Harper. And at the end of the day, I'm thinking this is going to be a good series, but I think the Brewers are going to win in 6. That is my prediction. And your NLCS MVP is Christian Yelich.
There you go. I would really have to look for my MVPs, by the way, because I would want to pick like someone completely off the radar. Kind of like what's his name? That's stupid. Tommy Edman winning NLCS MVP last year. Who the hell are Tommy Edman winning the NLCS MVP last year? Like, I don't believe you if anybody says they had. So I would want to go scrolling through the team pages and find someone this guy could do it. Like, I would want to go Josh Naylor, I would think, for Seattle. Like something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a lot of money if you get those predictions right. If you get all these predictions right, you're rolling in the dough at the end of the postseason. That's for sure. So we both have some interesting World Series matchups. And at the end of the day, despite the Cinderella run by the Tigers, I have the 2 1 seeds in the World Series. How exciting! The Blue Jays and the Brewers. And you have the Padres and the Mariners, which would be just unbelievably interesting. So
it will be interesting. It will be the first time if we get this matchup, which we probably won't. Because let's be real here. One of these teams is walking away with the first ever World Series championship.
For what it's worth, Major League Baseball would hate either of these matchups. If the World Series teams are some combination of the Blue Jays, the Brewers, the Padres, and the Mariners, MLB is crying compared to the Dodgers and the Yankees.
MLB will probably want a 2009 rematch Yankees-Phillies, if I were to guess.
I think they would want the Dodgers more than they'd want the Phillies.
Oh, the Dodgers. Of course, I forgot about the Dodgers. Yeah, they would want a rematch of last year. Of course, that's what they would want. They want Yankees-Dodgers again.
Yeah. So who do you have in your World Series? Padres, Mariners? Somebody has to win.
I feel so bad for saying this, because if this World Series is real, I would really be pulling for Seattle. Their fans have gone through so much heartbreak. But I don't have them winning the World Series. I have the Padres winning the World Series. And if this is real, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Seattle fans. I really would. I'll be rooting for you so hard in this World Series. But I have everything I just said earlier. I have the Padres taking it home and winning their first ever World Series championship. And then Seattle. I don't know what would happen to Mariners fans. I'm sorry.
Does it make a difference that the Mariners would have home field advantage in that World Series for you?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Padres. I'd have to look at this, go deeper on the Padres sets, because I know the Seattle field is the one that kills like home runs and stuff, and especially in November. I don't know how are the Padres a boom or bust home run team. I don't know. But I'm going to just go with what my gut said originally and right now, and I'm going to say no, the Padres are going to win. It just feels too right. It just feels too right. Like, if Seattle finally gets to the World Series, it just feels too right that they would unfortunately lose just because of how much suffering that fan base has gone through. I feel bad.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting way to have the season end. And what a fun World Series matchup that would be, my Phillies bias aside, to have the Padres and the Mariners in the World Series. Pure chaos. For me, the Brewers would have home field against the Blue Jays. They're both the 1 seeds, but Milwaukee has the overall number 1 seed because they have the best record in the major leagues. But I think that the Brewers' luck is going to fall off here, and I am going with the Toronto Blue Jays. I think that this is close. I think this is going 7 games. But I think Jeff Hoffman, the closer for the Blue Jays, I think he kind of figures it out a little bit. I think he absolutely nails World Series, but he doesn't win World Series MVP. Instead, the World Series MVP is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And the Blue Jays go home, champions of the world.
The interesting thing about both our World Series, actually, is that I would root really hard for the team that lost in both of these, because I know Brewers hate us now because the Pete Alonso home run. I don't have any real animosity towards them. They're just kind of in the way. And because they're a team that's never won the World Series, and I just found out, literally before, they've never been to the World Series since 1982. That just means, I would just root for them really hard because their fan base, they deserve something like that. And to see them lose, that would be absolutely crushing.
Yeah. These would both be World Series where I think people would feel pretty good about the team that won, except for maybe AL East fans about the Blue Jays. And Phillies fans, too. I know Phillies fans older than me still hold a grudge on Joe Carter, which I would, too, if I was old enough to have existed and remember 1993. But I do not.
I was gonna say don't. Oh yeah, I was gonna say Phillies hate the Blue Jays. But yeah, I got it confused in my head. I thought you were saying the Phillies would have been happy to see the Brewers lose. Whoops.
No, yeah, I just don't hold the grudge against the Blue Jays that older Phillies fans do. I think a lot of Phillies fans that are around my age just don't care all that much about the Blue Jays thing.
Anything while you've been watching.
Yeah, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind for us. Which is what it is. I would like a reason if it was Phillies, Blue Jays, give me that. That would be fun. But yeah, I think the Blue Jays win over over the Brewers. So our brackets started off similar here, and then they diverged quite a bit at the end.
Yep.
But we'll have to see who comes out on top. Thank you for joining, Alec, today. Anything else that you want to say before we finish up tonight's episode?
So I have a two fun games for both of you, the audience. Unfortunately, I already told you this one of these, Joe. I wouldn't have had you asked me to record this earlier. But fun game for everyone in the audience out there. Who do you think I'm rooting for in the playoffs? Since my team's not in it.
You've given a lot of hints in this episode. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, yeah. Do you remember? Do you remember who I said? Obviously, I'm going to say it.
I like the other ones. I mean, I think you were saying the Mariners, right?
Yeah. So basically, I'm going to be rooting for whoever comes out of the Cleveland Mariners Detroit Triangle. Like whoever comes out of that is I'm going to win. Root for to win. Mariners have never won a World Series. I just talk about all the suffering their fans have experienced. Cleveland, I believe they're like the longest drought. Like I think even including these teams because they're all like expansion teams, right? That have never won. Like I they haven't won in like 80 years. Like Cleveland, they deserve a win. And then Detroit, I really like their story from last year, and we would like to see that continue, even though it means beating those two teams. So yeah, it's really whoever comes out of that triangle. And how many games? So I was thinking about like we have to establish a little bit of criteria here. How many games do you think I'm actually going to be watching? At least a full inning of. If you were to guess, how many of these postseason games am I going to watch?
Gosh, I know you pretty well, but this is tough to answer. Give me. I think you're gonna watch. I'm gonna set the over/under at 11.5. I think that you're gonna probably watch a couple of Yankee games. It's the over/under.
I think it's a little optimistic.
What would you say? What are you expecting?
See, this is the thing. I know myself, and I know I love baseball. I love baseball so much, but but I have never been happier to have a regular season end than this end is. Absolutely miserable. From June 13th on, this season was an absolute fucking train wreck. It was completely miserable. I'm so happy it's gone. So the number I was thinking about was 3.
3. I figured in the World Series, especially if your prediction is right and it is San Diego, Seattle, you'd watch a good bit of the World Series and you'd probably watch and I figured you'd probably watch like a Yankees elimination game, a Phillies elimination game, stuff like that. And that's where I was getting to like my.
We'll see, because last year I didn't think I was going to watch that much of the World Series after my team just got eliminated and I was really upset. But I wound up watching or listening to game 1, game 2, game 5. I don't remember at game 3 or 4. So I still ended up paying attention to a decent amount of that World Series. So you might be right. It might be a lot higher than I'm thinking, especially because I didn't think I was going to watch the All-Star game at all. And I, because I was like, oh, the All-Star game, it means nothing. Like, whatever, who cares? And I wound up watching almost all of it just because I'm a baseball addict. So they will get the benefit that hockey doesn't start. Actually, hockey starts next week. But the Islanders suck, and I'm not expecting much from them. But at least I know they'll be bad, and the Knicks don't start until the end of the month. So they'll get the benefit there that I might be tuning into some games.
There you go. For me personally, I can't wait for these next 3 days of the wild card round. This was so much fun last year with the bye to watch with intrigue about what's going to happen, but at the same time being able to fully relax and enjoy it for what it is. I liked it so much last year, and I can't wait for this year. I'm very fortunate that tomorrow we have our quarterly planning for work, which pretty much means that I'm in a meeting all day long, but our quarterly planning is remote for this quarter, and I think the chances of me having to talk in it are about 2%. So I'm going to be in a meeting that I don't have to talk in all day tomorrow, and I'll be able to watch a whole lot of baseball.
Yeah. By the way, this podcast is already going long enough. I don't want to go on too long. I hate the staggering of the times. I'm lucky that I watch a big market team. That's always going to be a big story, so that I probably don't have to deal with that. But like, if I was like a Guardians fan who had to watch a game at like 12 p.m. or whatever it is, I don't fully remember, but I would be like so upset. Yeah, I really I cannot stand the staggered times. But
it's every year
sorry.
the Guardians play at 1:00. It's every year.
I
It's
know.
so
I feel
funny.
so bad. I would be so annoyed because like not everyone can like take off work or move their schedule around to watch these do or die games. So yeah, that it sucks. I'm sorry, Guardians fans. You guys were cool when I was there in July. So
there you go. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I can't wait for another Red October. This is like the best month before I get very sad about the cold weather from like November through the middle of March. So it's like my last bit of happiness for like 5 months. And then baseball ends and it gets cold.
True.
And all of a sudden I get about 90% more sad.
It's true. Listen, I said to you before, nothing ever happens in January. And it's true. And I know as much as this baseball season has made me miserable, I know as much as everything I've talked about, come January, you can check in with me. I will be missing baseball like crazy. So anyway, guys, if you want to enjoy this podcast, you want me back on, I'll gladly do. I will suffer by talking about the 2025 Mets. If you want to hear me rant about the 25 Mets for an hour, I will fucking do that. I'll do an all-season podcast. I will do a division preview. I'm a masochist, okay?
Yeah, we have...
No, finish. I was just going to say, that's really it.
No, I appreciate having you on. We have lots of content planned throughout the rest of the postseason, and of course in the off season, where we're again going to be taking like a bigger league-wide focus, and excited for that. So one more thing I wanted to sneak in the end here. One, I think I've been pretty good at not making digs at you about the Mets. I have been doing my best to keep a distance.
You've been good at that since the whole time we've been friends. And actually, I realized I was good at that too. So last year, so I guess context for the audience, we've been going to Mets Phillies games. We've done at least one every single year since 2021. This past year, actually, we did two. But last year, you had 2 season tickets and you invited me to go to NLDS game 2, Mets Phillies at the bank. And when you did that, I was like, geez, like I must be a good friend at like not trash talking, because there's no way he would invite me there otherwise.
Well, I wanted you to have the experience because Citizens Bank Park in October is just completely crazy.
That was a crazy game.
Yeah, well, it was a really good game. But this, I don't think this is a dig at you at the Mets, but this is a true story. I was hanging out with Steph, my girlfriend, a little bit today after work, and I was playing a little bit of MLB The Show, and she told me this is a quote right from Steph. So LOL Mets is really a thing for a reason, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, it is.
She's like, I get it now, and I'm like, there you
go. It is. I am in pain most of the time of being a Mets fan. Just being a sports fan is in pain. One thing I will say to you guys is, thank fucking God I'm not a Jets team. Or thank fucking God I don't care about football, really. I mean, both these teams are fucking garbage right now.
Hey, Jackson Dart got a win for the Giants the other day. Jackson Dart,
there you go.
Former USC quarterback.
Maybe he'll give fans an actual reason to actually, tune into Giants games, aside from just, being a glutton for punishment.
Maybe. Well, anyways, thank you for joining, Alec. I'm going to end this recording now. We'll talk to you in the future. We'll check in to see whose prediction was better. I have everything written down, so all right. We'll come back to it later on. Thank you very much.
Yep, no problem.
And thank you, everybody, for listening today. We will talk to you next at the conclusion of the Wild Card series to talk about whoever it is that the Phillies are going to be playing in the NLDS. So excited for that. And then again, the goal is to have a review, a little breakdown of every single Phillies playoff game this October. So looking forward to that. Get ready for your podcast feed to get super full here in Red October. Be sure to have questions for these games coming up in the podcast channel of our Discord server, linked in the show notes for that. And we'll talk to you real soon. See you later.